Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. I wanted to pop on here before the tutorial because I wanted to explain to you that I have lost my voice because I was sick, so my voice will be kind of weird through the whole video. Also, I wanted to thank everyone for their comments on the last video, the last tutorial video. It was such great feedback. I enjoyed reading all those comments. I also got some messages and some comments on Instagram. So I wanted to say thank you for all that. And I have taken note on everything. And I will be trying to do those videos pretty soon. Also, if there are different facial expressions that you would like to see, I would love to hear your thoughts on that. Leave them in the comment section below. So when I flip you around, what I'm going to start with, since we've already done the proportions, and if you haven't seen the first video, I walk you through where to put the eyes, the nose, the mouth, the ears, everything. So if you haven't seen the first video, it's kind of beneficial. But with this one, we'll just start off by drawing in everything, and then I'll talk about how we're going to lay out the features when we're doing the emotion we're doing. And today's emotion is sad. Again, if you have any other emotions that you'd like to see, leave them in the comment section below and I will put them on my list and they will be in one of these future videos. Okay, so this was the first video that I did. I will leave the link in the description box and have a link here on the screen if I can actually do that. And if you haven't seen this one, go and check that out first and then come back and watch the next one because I won't be explaining the proportions like I did before. Okay. We just start off with the shape of the head. So that's what I'm going to do. So some of the comments that I got and the feedback that I got, that I talk a little bit about the neck and the shoulder region, just where to really put that. They kind of get confused on that. So I will be going over that. And then I will talk about like how to make eyes look sad and things like that. How to make a mouth look sad. I'm sure most of you kind of understand the concept. Sometimes it's just easier to see it, you know. People can tell you how to do it all the time, but sometimes it's just easier to see it. So also the last time I did some straight hair with, it's pretty short. This time I'm going to try to do curly hair for you so it gives you a different look and feel. Also last time I did more of an egg-shaped head and this time I'm doing more of a circular head. So again, I'm trying to give you variety. All right, so I'm going to start off with the eyes, and remember this is just how I do it. So I start by, this would be my eyebrow area. And then I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to draw in the nose. And then for the mouth, you're going to remember that we're trying to make her look sad. So her lips aren't going to turn up, they're going to turn down. If you extend this upper lip more, it's going to look more pronounced and more sad. So I went ahead and added those in. For the eyes, you know, if you kind of work with the whole fact that you want them to turn down, extend the top part a little bit, and they're going to look more sad. I'm going to have her looking in a different direction. Last time I had her looking exactly at the, like, you know, you as the person. This time I'm just going to have her look in a different direction. So, and I'm trying to do all these different things so that way you see me doing them. And once you see someone doing it, it does help. All right, so we've got her in. Now, her ears, again, they start at the eye and end at the nose. Okay? And if they're showing, I like to add in this little middle part, but I don't know if I'm going to have them showing. I just draw them in anyway. So remember, I said last time that the neck kind of extends from the ear, but I feel like that's too thick. So I extend it somewhere in between. And then once I do that, line from the neck down, and then a lot of times my shoulders are points, but you can round them if you want. And then this one's a little long. So I just kind of draw it down. Mine are never really perfect, honestly. I feel like it's all about the neckline. So I always have like a collar there. And now when I do this, I try not to make her shoulders too far apart. So like if they are past her, they're going to be past her ears, but I make them about the same width as an eye. So like if I measure my eye here and I put it down by the ear and draw a little notch, that's about where my ears are going to be. If you measure this eye, sorry, that's about where my shoulders are going to be. Do you see how it kind of evens out? That's kind of that's always what I go for. You can make them as thinned shoulders or as broad shoulders as you want. It's really just your choice. It's all up to you. Eyebrows. Most people have some kind of sad mark to their forehead. Instead of arched like this, they're kind of going to just come down like this. So you kind of draw a line, and then what you can do is you can make her eyebrows like this triangle shape. They can either come to a point, they can turn down like that if you want them to. You know, you can kind of play around with it a little bit. But as long as you have like this worry mark and then the eyebrows going at a slant down, she's going to look sad. And then we're going to add in some hair. And I told you today that I wanted to make it curly. So I block in the hair like I said before. And then I'm just going to add in the pieces. I like to make some thick, some thin. I don't take the curl and do it exactly how it looks next to each other. Like these three are the same. So maybe I'll start with this one going like this. That way it gives some texture to the hair. All right, so now I'm just going to ink everything up. I like to start with a finer tipped pen. This is my Pilot Kakuno in fine. And every line that I want to show, I am going to put ink on. That's why I start with the fine tip, so that way I can always get thicker. All right, so now that I have everything inked up, I just go ahead and erase my lines, and then I decide again what I want to be bold. So just like in the last one, I'll be using my Faber-Castell in the brush tip. And I think I said this last time too, I like to outline her completely first. When I'm outlining, there are certain parts that I like to keep thinner than others. So when I'm down here by the neck, I kind of like to taper it so that way it's not a thick line down there. And then I can start my bold line coming out by the shoulders. I just feel like that gives it more of like a womanly look, a dainty look. If I'm doing a male portrait, which we'll get to, I would probably not taper it as much down there. Sometimes it does this and I don't really like how it's tapering. So I will just bring my pen and I will taper it more smooth. At the part, I really like to kind of like swoop in here and make these end little pieces almost look like they have a rounded edge up here. I feel like this is a really really nice detail. I feel like it really finishes up the hair. It doesn't look so choppy. And it defines the part a little bit, but not too much. So that's a little trick I do. Sometimes if I think that like I see this darker outline, I just go ahead and I bring it through and create more of a thicker line through here. I like it when I do that because I'm not perfect about it. I can't draw on the line completely all the time. So there's going to be areas like right here that I fill in. And again, I think that creates more interest and depth to the hair. So that's what I'm going to do now. I'm just going to go through the hair. I'm going to fill in these strands like that, okay? So I feel like these little details, when you add finishing touches kind of like this, it really makes it look complete. That's my opinion. So that's why I do things like that. I feel like it really adds something to the hair. So at this point now, what I'm going to do is I'm going to paint it in. I told you before that I cheat with this Tombow marker. It is 942. I like this color because it's not too dark and it's not too light. So I'm going to go ahead and color her in here. And you know, when I'm drawing these types of faces in my journal, I'm trying to depict a mood. So when I think of sad, I'm going to also try and think of what colors I would want to use in her face, because I do like to add some fun colors to the face, so that way it's not just skin tone. So I normally would think, when I think sad, I think of blues and purples and stuff like that. So I am going to be adding blue and purple to her face. First, I need to blend this marker in. So it's a Tombow marker, so I just pull it to one side. And if you noticed, I have my line of my nose on this side. So this side of the girl is going to be darker. And that's why I put most of the marker all on this side instead of touching the other side with it. So that way when I pull it over with the water, it's going to be lighter and you already have somewhat of a shadow. All right, so when it's still wet is when I'm going to kind of work with my blue tone colors. So I'm using my Schmincke watercolor set here. Again, you don't have to use it. If you have Tombow markers, use Tombow markers. But I'm gonna take my blue and I'm gonna pull it into the darker side. And remember, it's wet on wet, so it's going to kind of like bleed wherever it wants to. And I'm fine with that for right now. It's just a really light base color, so it doesn't really matter. I will take it to the next side, but I'm not going to, you know, really let it go places. Now, if I have too much, I'm going to wipe off my brush on my towel, and I just come in here and I'm going to control it. You know, blend it out a little bit, move it around. If I have a wet on wet, if I get my brush wet and I start to blend it out, then it's going to move instead of pick up. So I'm going to go ahead and move on to another section. Let's do her shirt. Blue, I kind of like to do complementary colors when I'm doing something like this. So blue's complement is orange. So I'm going to go ahead and make her shirt a more like an earthy orange. So I'm going to make an orange right here. I don't know if you can see that. Hang on. No, you can't. Hang on. So I've made an orange. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pull in some brown into it and kind of mute it out a bit. So it's like a pumpkin. And then I'm going to paint the shirt. You guys, when I'm doing this, I'm not perfect. I'm just trying to practice facial expressions. I'm trying to capture a mood. And, you know, maybe this shirt right here is a space for you to journal. You know, I mean, it could be anything. All right, so I got her shirt in, And I talked about last time is if you don't have that color anywhere else in your image, then it's good to throw it in the face. The peach color is very close to the orange color, so I don't need to do that at this point. But I do want to go back into the face once it's dried, so that way I can add more depth to the face, because right now it's kind of looking flat. But that's okay, because it still needs to dry. So I'm going to work on the background here, and I'm going to make it like a purpley color. And I just chose purple because I thought that it kind of went with the sad tone of the face. Alright, so I'm going to go back into the face with still more blue and really make that blue kind of stand out. At this point, I am going to add her cheeks. I'm going to stick with the like orangish red color that we have going on, just so it kind of plays with each other a little bit. Again, I like to put her cheeks down low, but you could like to put them anywhere. I'm blending it out with a wet, clean brush, and this one didn't kind of do what I wanted, so I'm going back and helping it a little. And now I'm going to work on the hair. Now for the hair, I wanted it to be pretty dark, so I start with a dark brown. I always start with a base layer first. That way I can build on top of it. So I think what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to be doing the dark brown, and then I will add in black streaks and blue streaks. At this point, I can't work on the hair very much anymore. I'm going to be really careful here because I know it's kind of wet. And if it blurs out, it's not going to kill me. So, like I said, stuff is still wet. So then I try and go for something else. Like, I think I want to add more purple to the background, make it a little bit darker. So, and I'm going to choose a side. So the shadow is on this side, so I'm going to make that side of the painting darker. I'm going to move this so it's easier for me, but I'm just going to do another layer of that same purple that I had, and I kind of like taper it down. And then I'm blending it out. So that kind of also helps your eye understand that this blue, even though it's blue is weird because it's not like a normal face color, it's the darker part of the face. I'm going to color in the eyes. I'm going to use the cheek color as a base. Okay, I'm just gonna let that dry. And I told you that I wanted it to be dark, so I'm gonna go in with some black now and paint some strands. I like to always have 3 colors in the hair that I'm working with. I don't really have a rhyme or reason to what strands I paint. I don't think it really matters, honestly. The lip is always darker on top. I really think that layers are important. So I really don't try and use a lot of pigment when I'm using watercolor. I use more water than color. I think that building it up is going to give you more control over your piece than just plopping it down and going from there. There's different ways to do layers. You know, you could start off with a stencil and stencil the whole thing a certain color and then plop her on top, and it's still a different layer. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to dry this and I'm going to go back into it with some pen. So because I'm impatient most of the time, I get things like this or little blossoms like this, because this black was wet when I applied the blue and I touched it with my paintbrush. I don't care. That does not bother me. These little blossoms here, I kind of sometimes use those in my pieces. What I do is I take my, the smallest fine liner I have, which is 0.05, and I can outline that kind of stuff. So that's kind of what I'm going to do right now. I can create some marks going this way to create depth of her nose. And when I do these marks, they are just sporadic, you know, like I'm not really paying attention. My hand is not touching the paper very heavy. If you have a heavy hand, holding your pencil way back here will help the situation. So I just start kind of outlining things, outlining shapes. And again, this is more stylized. You do not have to do this technique. I just thought this would be a good one to do it on because she had a lot of different layers. A lot of times I'll just stick to like one thing. So like if I'm not going to do it everywhere. I'm just going to do it in the face. I do need to fill in her eyes here. And like I said before, I'm not into eyelashes really, but I do thicken up this lash line. Well, I want to do something different in the background, so maybe I take this gray because I want some different texture, and I create these lines. I really like lines, guys, if you haven't noticed. I do hope you enjoyed this. Please give it a thumbs up if you enjoyed the video. If you're going to try it out, I would love to see your finished pieces. Tag me on Instagram, or just use the hashtag mydocumentedjourney. So anyway, sorry about the voice. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and I'll see you in my next one. Bye.